What's up, kings and queens? It's Dan from Daft Previews, and today, you know what it is. I'm going to take you through the most comprehensive NBA player prop preview you are going to see on YouTube today. I'll be previewing all the 4 games on this upcoming slate. I'll be taking you through all the players, their prop lines, and their history. We'll talk a little bit about their matchups too. So let's get straight into it. I'll be sharing my screen. I use props.cash if you're interested in doing your own research. You could sign up to props.cash today. You can get 25% off your first month if you use my code DAFT25. But no pressure. It's up to you whether you do it. So let's jump straight into the preview. We're jumping into the marquee matchup of the night. It's the Los Angeles Lakers versus the Boston Celtics. As usual, Anthony Davis, LeBron James, they are both game time decisions, but we do have their prop lines available in this one. The Celtics, I think they're 10.5 favorites at the moment. Game playing in Boston. I think they're 21-2 on the season, so very short odds at the moment for the Boston Celtics. But let's get into these player props and see if we can find some value on them. We'll kick it off with Anthony Davis. Looking at his points prop first, the line set at 24.5. Over his last 10 games, he's covered this 5 times, averaging 22. And in his last 5 games, he's covered this twice, averaging 22. So averages over his last 5 and 10, well under this points line. Looking at head-to-head matchups, though, 37, 16, and in their matchup a month ago against the Boston Celtics, he scored 40 points. What an absolute beast. Let's have a look at his rebound prop. 12, 10, and 13 in his last matchup. His prop's at 11.5 at the moment. Looking at his last 10, he has rebounded quite well. 7 of his last 10 and 3 of his last 5. He's pretty much averaging 11.5 rebounds throughout that span. So by the looks of it, it's going to go close. Assist-wise, he's hit this in 5 of his last 10, but only 1 of his last 5. Head-to-head matchups, 3 assists, 4, and 4 assists earlier this year. So in that game earlier this year, he covered his points, rebounds, and his assist line. Can AD do it again? Look, I'm not too sure. But let's keep it rolling with the Los Angeles Lakers, and then we'll get into the Celtics. Let's have a look at LeBron James. Points-wise, his line's at 24.5. He's covered in 5 of his last 10, averaging 23. But in his last 5 games, averaging 26.4. Head-to-head matchups, he's covered this in 2 of his last 3, but he only scored 16 points in that last game against the Boston Celtics. He played 36 minutes, but he only shot the ball 14 times. But if AD's scoring 40, old man James probably doesn't have to score his normal 25 points. Looking at his rebounds, he's had 9 rebounds in 3 consecutive games. Looking in his last 10, though, he's covered it in 5 of his last 10 and 2 of his last 5, averaging 8.8 rebounds over his last 5 games. But that average is really blown out by the 20 rebounds that he got against the Boston Celtics. So difficult one here. His recent form is down. I had a look at his potential rebounds, and they're not that high. Potential rebounds are about 9 or 10. 10 or 11. And for him to get 7 rebounds, you'd probably need to be getting him for 12 to 13 potential rebounds. But at the same time, LeBron James gets a lot of uncontested rebounds, so he doesn't fight very hard for the ones that he does get. So I think the line's about right, the 6.5. Assist-wise, in his last 10, he's hit this 7 times. In his last 5, he's hit this 4 times, 9.4 assists as an average. Head-to-head matchups, he's covered his assist line in 3 straight games against the Celtics, 9, 8, and 8. So all of that is looking pretty good to me. The line at the moment, 7.5, minus 122. Yeah, look, it's not too bad at all, I must say. So, but it all depends. There's a blowout risk here, obviously. Boston Celtics, big home faves, could blow the Lakers out. Let's have a look at Kristaps Porzingis. Points-wise, his line's at 19.5. He's hit this twice in his last 10 games, averaging 16 points per game. 3 games against the Lakers, he's covered it in all 3. 27, 21, and 28 earlier this season. Rebound-wise, 9, 11, and 11. So he's killed his rebound lines against the Lakers. And in his last 10, rebound-wise, only hit this twice as well, similar to his points. So basically with Kristaps, what you're seeing in his last 10 games, he hasn't played that well at all. But when he plays the Lakers, this man bangs out the stats, covering his points line every time, covering his rebound line every single time. What you do with that information is up to you. Looking at Drew Holiday next, we'll check out his points, rebounds, and assists. 6 of his last 10 and 4 of his last 5 he's covered. He's covered his points line in 3 straight games against the Lakers. Rebound-wise, 3 of his last 10, 1 of his last 5. His line's at 5.5. But he's covered his rebound line in every game against the Lakers. Assist-wise, he's covered that in every game against the Lakers. And in his last 10, 3 rebounds. He's covered it 3 times. And in his last 5, he's covered his assist line twice. So that is very interesting. A lot of players play good against when they match up here. You might want to throw recent form out the window and assume they're playing a playoff series. But let's have a look at Jason Tatum. I know once upon a time he used to love playing up against LeBron James because he had a crazy stat where he scored X amount of points, like maybe 30 points in like 10 consecutive games or something against LeBron. And I remember taking it, and I think he finished on 25. So that was pretty painful. What do we have? Points line, 27.5. He's hit this in 3 of his last 10, but 3 in his last 5. Looking at his head-to-heads, 44, 30, and there it is. 25 points in his last matchup against the Los Angeles Lakers. Rebound-wise, 9, 11, 8 rebounds against them the last time they matched up. And in his last 10 games, he's hit this 4 times. In his last 5 games, he's hit this 3 times. So recent form in his last 5 looking a lot better for Tatum in points and rebounds. Assist-wise, 6 of his last 10, 3 of his last 5. Averaging 5 assists per game. He had 7 assists in that very last matchup against the Lakers earlier this season. So Jason Tatum assists, not too bad. Let's have a look at Jaylen Brown. So looking at his last 10, 3 of his last 10 and 2 of his last 5. Line's at 22.5. In his last 10, he's averaging 19. Head-to-head matchups, over in 2 out of 3, but he did only score 19 points in that last matchup against the Los Angeles Lakers. So Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum went under. I think their whole starting 5 scored 18-plus points each, the Boston Celtics, in that last game. Rebounds, 6 of his last 10, 3 of his last 5, he's covered this line. Head-to-head matchups, 15, 9, and 5 rebounds against the Los Angeles Lakers. Assist-wise, 5 of his last 10, 3 of his last 5, but he's gone under in his last 2 against the Lakers. Let's have a quick look at Derek White, points and assists. Yep, he scored 18 points in that last game against the Lakers. In his last 10, 14.6 points per game, 5 of his last 10, and 2 of his last 5. Let's have a look at his assists. And in his last 10 games, he's covered it 4 times. Yeah, there's nothing on here to take it with confidence. He did have 11 assists, I guess, in that last matchup against the Lakers, which is pretty crazy. So I don't know what to pick on this. I don't mind the LeBron stuff. I don't mind Drew Holiday. Jason Tatum, he can definitely fill up the stat sheet. Anthony Davis, I don't know if you can go back-to-back games against the Boston Celtics, destroying them like that. So maybe a quiet one from him. But, man, I couldn't read a book at the moment. So I wouldn't be trusting my opinion on how things are going to go right now, let me tell you. Let's jump into the next game. It's the Indiana Pacers versus the New York Knicks. So Tyrese Halliburton, game time decision, most likely to play. And OG Anunoby is a game time decision for the Knicks. So there's limited markets available. We've only got Jalen Brunson and Tyrese Halliburton at the moment. So let's go through them. Jalen Brunson firstly, though. His points line is at 33.5. He's hit this in 1 of 3 games against the Pacers. Over his last 10, he's only hit this twice, averaging 29 points per game. Julius Randle's been out for 2 games now, I believe. Jalen Brunson has had some strong scoring performances, but he's yet to cover this line. Looking at his rebounds, he's covered his rebound line of 3.5 in 4 of his last 10 and 2 of his last 5. He's gone under in all 3 games against the Indiana Pacers. Assist-wise, he's gone under in all 3 games against the Indiana Pacers. And in his last 10, he's gone over this line 5 times, averaging 7.1 assists per game. So I'm curious to look at his PRA here, just as I thought, because 45.5, it is quite high. He's only hit that at 22% this season. Up against the Indiana Pacers, it is going to be a fast-paced game, but the Pacers don't allow many three-pointers. You have to really attack the rim to take advantage of them. Jalen Brunson does drive the ball quite a lot, but stops in that mid-range. I don't know if he could score 40 points in the mid-range, but they don't allow many assists either because they don't allow spot-up threes. So a lot of times you have to create your own shot against them and get to the rack. So they don't allow many assists, and they're a pretty strong rebounding team, believe it or not, the Indiana Pacers. They limit the rebound somehow. But, yeah, I think Right now, I'm leaning to a Jalen Brunson under. I've got to tell you, this line may be a little too high for my liking, but he could go out there and score 50 points. So I'd ignore me for that. Let's look at Tyrese Halliburton. Lines at 15.5. Oh, we just saw OG Anunoby and Isaiah Hartenstein's lines been added. So we'll go through those two. Um, let's look at Tyrese Halliburton. In his last 10 games, he's covered his points line in 7 times, averaging 20.1 points per game. In his last 5, he's only covered it twice. But I think the key ones to look at are his last 2. 21 against Portland, 13 against the Boston Celtics, because he was out for 11 days. Actually, he was out for 11 days versus Portland, and then he was out for another 11 days. So just came back against the Boston Celtics. Rebound-wise, 7 of his last 10, 3 of his last 5 that he's hit. There's a lot of green there, but the line is only at 2.5. Head-to-head matchups against the Knicks, 1, 3, and 5 rebounds. So that is a very juice line, though, minus 150. So that doesn't seem like a fun one to play. Let's look at his assists, because I think he goes over them for some reason. But he's hit this in 6 of his last 10, 2 of his last 5. First came back from injury against the Boston Celtics. Got 10 assists. He only played 22 minutes. So I think we need to think about, is there a minutes restriction? Because the game was close against the Boston Celtics, but they didn't play Tyrese down the stretch. But he did get these 10 assists very quickly. The New York Knicks, pretty good defensively. They don't allow many assists, as you can see. They're in the top 10. They don't allow many 3-pointers, but he's got weapons now, Tyrese Halliburton. Pascal Siakam can score. Naismith, for some reason, can hit the 3. Obviously, Buddy's there. Mathurin, Miles Turner. Obi Toppin can get some buckets. Jalen Smith's getting buckets. So Halliburton's got a lot of weapons at his disposal. So I don't mind his assists here. But look, do your own research, because if you back me in, you're going to find yourself in trouble. Let's have a look at Isaiah Hartenstein. We'll check out his points and rebounds. His line's at 9.5. He's covered this in 3 of his last 10, so that's not exciting. He's had 5 games against the Pacers, gone under in every single one, but obviously he was probably playing less minutes back then. Actually, his last matchup here, where he scored 2 points, played 32.8 minutes, so that's good to know. He was probably starting back then. Rebound-wise, in his last 10, 7 of his last 10, he's covered this line, 11.5. Having a look. So he did have 1 week off here between Toronto and Miami. So he had some reduced minutes. 3 games with reduced minutes. Toronto, Miami, Charlotte. So in these 3 games, minutes were heavily reduced. So 9.5 rebound is his line. If you exclude these 3 games where he's on a restriction or he got injured, he's pretty much covered this in all of them. But his rebounds line's probably quite low, because if he's defending Miles Turner, he's going to spend a lot of time outside of the key. So Miles Turner loves to sit around the top of the key, which means Hartenstein might find it a little bit difficult to get some boards tonight. Let's check out OG Anunoby, if he does play. Points-wise, line's at 18.5. He's covered this in 3 of his last 5 games, averaging 17.6 points per game. Since Julius Randle went out, I think that he's only played 1 game without Randle as a New York Knick. Let's have a look. Without Randle, actually, he has every single game that he's played with the Knicks. Julius Randle played, I believe. Anyway, so OG yet to play without Randle, by the looks of things. So could be more scoring opportunities for him, because I think he was out the last game, OG. If he gets more shot attempts, more buckets, for sure. And if he's lining up at power forward, we know that the Indiana Pacers give up a lot of points to power forwards. OG doesn't play like a power forward, though, at the same time. More than capable of attacking the rack, shooting the corner 3, up against his old running mate, Pascal Siakam. So that could be an entertaining game. Rebound-wise, the line's at 4.5. Covered in 6 of his last 10, 3 of his last 5. And against the Pacers, 2 of his last 4. So once again, if this really is his first game without Julius Randle, and we know Isaiah Hartenstein's probably going to be defending Miles Turner on the perimeter, I think there's a good chance for OG, but also Josh Hart to get a lot of rebounds in this game. Josh Hart's line most likely is going to be very high. Triple-double in his last game. I think I called out that he's a triple-double threat too. Spewing, I didn't take that. But your players like your OGs, your Josh Harts, I think their rebound line is going to be quite juicy tomorrow. But we've got to see whether he plays or not, right? So one to think about assist-wise. Ain't nobody playing OG's assist prop. Let's jump to the next game, shall we? It's the Philadelphia 76ers versus Utah Jazz. Joel Embiid is out. Maxi, Batum, their game time decisions. Let's have a look at Chris Dunn. The only thing I'm interested in looking at is assists. And 4.5 is his assist line, 6 of his last 10, and 2 out of his last 5. Nothing juicy going on there. Colin Sexton, we'll check out his points and his assists. So his assist numbers seem to be climbing. Points starting to get a bit inconsistent, but he's covered this line of 6.5 in 4 of his last 5 games. He's averaging 8 assists per game in that span. In head-to-head matchups, he's covered this in 1 of 2. 76ers, he got 10 assists the last time they played. So I did strongly consider taking Colin Sexton's assist. I did take him for assist recently, and that worked out quite well for me. But I don't know if I feel comfortable taking the same player for the same prop back to back. So let's have a look at his points. He's covered this in 8 of his last 10, averaging 22. In his last 5, he's had 2 games where he's gone well under, Washington and Brooklyn. One of those games he shot terribly. Both of those games he didn't really play as many minutes. But yeah, that game against Brooklyn, he was 1 for 10. But, as he starts to, if you're doing shit like this, right, teams are going to start to put some tactics on your ass. So maybe there's been some defensive adjustments which are slowing Colin Sexton down, and he's responding well. As his points have gone down, his assist numbers have gone up. So he's figuring it out. That's pretty cool. Lauri Markkanen, points-wise, he's hit this in 5 of his last 10, 2 of his last 5. Against this Philadelphia 76ers team, he scored 33 points in their last matchup. Rebound-wise, had 13 rebounds in that game. Line's at 8.5. Over his last 10, he's hit this 7 times, averaging 8.4 rebounds. Assist-wise, we know he don't pass the ball. John Collins, his line started to move up, 14.5. He's hit this in 5 of his last 10, 3 of his last 5. Head-to-head matchups against the 76ers, he's covered this twice in a row. He scored 19 points in that last matchup against them. Rebound-wise, he's gone under in 5 straight games against the 76ers. And looking at his last 10, he's gone over 5 times, averaging 8.9. He's covered this in 4 of his last 5, though, averaging 10.6 boards per game. No Embiid. I do like John Collins' chances, but I actually took him recently for over points and rebounds. And he cashed that. But, do I want to play Johnny again? I'm not too sure. So look at Tobias Harris. Probably be the focal point for this Philadelphia 76ers attack. Let's just go straight to games without Embiid. If we're going to look at all of his stats. So without Embiid, he's covered this in 3 of his last 10 and only 2 of his last 5. Rebound-wise, 5 of his last 10, 3 of his last 5. And assist-wise, he's only covered this in 2 of his last 10. So if I wanted to look at his PRA, he's only covered his 35.5 PRA in 3 of his last 10 games without Joel Embiid in the lineup. All of those games happen to be this season. So, not liking what I see for Tobias Harris here, let me tell you. Let's have a look at Kelly Oubre. How does he go when Joel's not there? Kelly Oubre, without Joel Embiid, he's had some pretty big games. He's covered this in 4 of 8 games this season without Joel Embiid, averaging 16.8. The games where he did cover, he blasted it out the gate, 25, 24, 25, and 25. Looking at his rebounds, 4 from 8, and looking at his assists, 5 from 8. So I'm not seeing any magical numbers there. Let's look at Jordan Clarkson. Points-wise, last 10, he's covered this 6 times, but he's only covered this once in his last 5. Head-to-head matchups, scored 18 points in his most recent matchup against the Philadelphia 76ers. Looking at his rebounds, he's rebounded quite well, 3 straight games covering his line, but in his last 10 games, not covering it quite well at all. Had 1 game against the Rockets with 12 boards and then went back to getting 1 or 2. Assist-wise, actually, those are none. They're not 1. So, yeah, no rebounds. Assist-wise, line's at 3.5. His line used to be at 5.5, but now Colin Sexton's really taken over. That's dropped down considerably. Makes sense. Not getting much game time, perhaps, and not passing the rock that much either. So there's Jordan Clarkson. Now let's jump into the very last game. The Cleveland Cavaliers versus the Memphis Grizzlies. Now in this game, Darius Garland's a game time decision. There might be other game time decisions, actually, given that there are 0 lines available at the moment. Concha, Luke Kennard, not Derrick Rose, all game time decisions as well. So yeah, so there's no props at the moment for this Cleveland Memphis game. Um, we know Donovan, they're on a back to back, the Cavs as well. Jared Allen's been playing good. Donovan Mitchell's been an absolute animal. Darius Garland, he scored 19 points today. I'd be curious to see what his line will be tomorrow. I think one thing to really consider and think about when it comes to betting any game with the Memphis Grizzlies is the odds are usually going to be quite good for the Memphis Grizzlies. They cover the line quite well, and that's because they're gritty as hell. Defensively, these guys get it done. They are hustling out there. Jaren Jackson, he is a chucker. So I think if you ever see a line where Jaren Jackson's line's like 28 and a half and above, just take the under because he's going to go under that 75% of the time, I think, regardless of how many shots he takes. Because there's always the risk that he'll get into foul trouble as well, and that could be an easy win. Vince Williams, he's a very popular pick because he's not their second option, but he seems to score the second most points for the Grizzlies most nights. He's going to be defended by probably Max Strus or something like that, so he's not going to have a lockdown defender on him. He shoots a lot of threes, so that's really one to consider. But Luke Kennard or Derrick Rose, depending on who plays or if they both play, I think their assist prop would probably be nice. Derrick Rose would actually be their only point guard on the roster left. Luke Kennard is a shooting guard. He's been playing point guard because they've got nobody left. But I'll leave that up to you guys to figure out. But look, whilst I've got you, I know it's a shorter video than what you guys are used to. There is only 4 games on the slate. I just wanted to have an open and honest conversation, really. Well, I'm having the conversation by myself, but hopefully you are listening to this. I'm hurting right now. Like I'm honestly racking my brain to figure out what the hell is going on. I know that the previews that I do every single night, it's gaining a lot of traction. A lot of people are finding that valuable. So I don't want to stop doing that. But I've found that since I've started doing this preview, just the success rate of my actual picks has just plummeted. Like this is probably one of the worst stretches of betting that I have ever been on. And I, for the life of me, can't figure out why. Because I do these videos, it forces me to research and check all the lines every single night. I'm starting to question, am I tired by the time it comes down to the picks, making my selections? Because am I missing something in the research? So what I did was I pulled out some old spreadsheets that I used to have. So last year when I was doing bets on the NBA, I had a spreadsheet and it had every single thing that you should take into consideration before you take a player's bet. Like some of the things that you wouldn't think of top of mind, right? But it was very systematic to make sure you considered all things. At the moment, what are the key things I take into consideration? I look at their matchup. I look at their recent form. I look at their form against their opposition. I look at their minutes. I look at shot attempts. I look at injuries. Sometimes I'm looking at home and away, but once I opened up that spreadsheet today and had a look at it, I was like, yeah, there's a lot of things that I'm probably skimping on. So I am going to go back to using that. So no bets on this video, but pinned comment's going to have one in there. But let me talk you through what I've found so far. Let me just take you through it. I got nothing to lose by explaining this one to you. So, for example, one pick that I was investigating, and I'll most likely play, I was looking at Drew Holiday over 13.5 points. So I'll take you through each cell. Actually, I'll share my screen so you guys can see it because I got nothing to hide here. All right, so here's a look at the spreadsheet. I cleared out all the data because I wanted to make it fresh so I could start using it. So I haven't made this bet yet, but this is what I've done to take everything into consideration, right? We're looking at his prop line of 13.5 points. His recent performance, he's covered this in 4 of his last 5, averaging 15.6 points per game. He's taking 10 shot attempts per game, and he's shooting 58% from the field. He's also shooting 58% from deep on 6.2 attempts per game. He's playing 33 minutes per game over his last 5, although 2 of those games were blowouts, and he played less than 28 minutes. In terms of the matchup, the Lakers have a bottom 7 defensive rating over their last 10 games. The Lakers allow the 9th most points to point guards on the season and over their last 15 games. The Lakers starting backcourt of Reeves and D'Lo have the 2nd and 4th worst
defensive rating amongst all the Lakers. So they're pretty much the worst defenders that you can get on the Los Angeles Lakers, and one of them will be defending Drew Holiday. I had a look at his usage rate. So it's 17%. Whether you look in the last 10 or for the season, it's 17%, which is the fifth highest on the Boston Celtics. So it's not that high. But at the same time, the line of 13.5, not that high either. I looked at his historical performance. So 3 out of 3 games against the Lakers, he's gone over. He's averaging 21 points per game in those games. He scored 18 points earlier this season against the Lakers on the road. He shot 7 from 10 from the field and 3 from 5 from deep. The Celtics, they were at full strength in that game, and all 5 starters scored 18 plus points. In-game factors, the Celtics are 10.5 point favorites. Blowout's a possibility. Boston are at home, where they have a 21-2 record this season. Thinking about blowouts, their last blowout win was against Miami. The Celtics won by like 30-something points. Drew Holiday scored 17 points in that one. In terms of team pace, the Lakers play at a much faster pace. They're number 1 in their league in the whole league in the last 3 games. Celtics, they're in the middle of the table, but I think if you combine those things, the Lakers are going to need to run. They're going to want to. They're not going to want to slow it down against the Boston Celtics, so that could open up some opportunities. Looking at home and away, his averages are very much the same home and away. At home, he's covered this line at 52%. There's no back-to-back impact in terms of schedule. In terms of playing style, so I even looked into all the data as to how he scores his points. How do the Lakers give up points? He scores the 3rd most points on the fast break behind Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. If the Lakers do control the pace and it is fast, I think Drew Holiday can get some easy points in transition. Rebounds and assists, not relevant in this one. I've called out Bron and AD at a game time decision, so that's a factor as well. Because I think if Bron and AD are out, I think you could probably see Tatum and Jaylen Brown go crazy, just attacking the rim at will. But yeah, this is pretty much how the spreadsheet looks. And then what I would do is I'd take all of that into consideration once I've done my research, and then I would make a final play, which is this box here. So yeah, and what I called out, recent form is great. He's got a strong field goal percentage. He shot a high field goal percentage against the Lakers in the last matchup, and I counted for a 10% regression. Let's assume that he doesn't shoot as well as he has been, but if he shoots 10% lower and he maintains his average of 10 shots per game, he can still cover. Looking at the number of threes, the fact he can get to the free throw line, I think there's still a good chance that he'll cover. The Lakers backcourt, they're terrible defensively. Blowout is a risk, but as I called out earlier, Holiday scored 17 points in their last blowout victory against the Miami Heat. Pace is expected medium to be high. Transition layups and spot up threes is on the menu for Drew Holiday. So that's pretty much how I research a lot of my things to get to a final pick. But, racking my brain at the moment to figure out why it's not hitting the way it used to. It's crazy. I went from in December, accounts are getting banned, winning too much, yada, yada, yada. And then now just getting absolutely murdered by the books. And it's not, look, maybe I'm not doing this level of detail with every single pick. That's why I'm showing it to you today to say, this is what I'm going to be doing. But whilst I've got this up, these little red tags up here, so those are little comments. So these are things that I want to take into consideration. So if I'm looking at recent performance, I've got a little glossary to help me, to give me things to take into consideration. Hot, cold, what it means, efficiency, production. And I look at matchup strength. So I talk about what's a defensive rating, positional defensive stats, points allowed, what's the defensive trends of the opposition, matchup history, all that type of stuff. Looking at historical performance, strategies, adjustments, rotations, consistencies, individual defenders. So this spreadsheet alone has so many different factors that you would need to consider before filling this box in. But it really makes you think about the game at a different level. But one thing I'm actually going to work on is, once I've tidied this up and made it look nice, I'll probably find a way for you guys to download it. If anyone would be interested, let me know in the comment section, because I can do that for y'all. If that's something you're interested in doing. But look, I wouldn't blame anybody for not tailing anything I do right now, because shit, it's bad. But I'm hurting right now. There's a lot of effort going into this, and I can't just seem to deliver. And it's not the financial thing. Like, I'm not rich by no stretch of the imagination, but Financially, I'm doing okay. It's just the fact that all this time and effort goes into it, and I can't seem to jag the winners. Like, it's fucking painful. So if you guys have any advice, anything I'm missing, any other considerations, just please let me know in the comment section. But hopefully you guys tune back in tomorrow. Bigger slate of games, I'm sure, with only 4 on this next card. So bigger slate of games, bigger preview. Hopefully whatever bets I do land on, it might be Drew Holiday, but whatever it is that I do land on, hopefully we get back into the win column, because I need a win right now. But look, appreciate you if you made it this far. I'll catch you guys in the next one. You guys be safe out there. Peace.
Sub to the channel cause your boy's getting busy. Coming to you live from the west side of Sydney. We've got the free picks and the juice on the daily. It's all free, you don't even have to pay me.